Hello, this is Dean Phoenix with part 3 of my Final Fantasy X Overpowered walkthrough. So this is not a full walkthrough, but it's just how you can be overpowered by doing certain things through the story, and this is for the standard sphere grid one. But this episode is more of a standalone one. This will apply for either the expert grid or the standard grid. Basically it just uses a little bit of grinding in Besaid to get Tidus to have the haste skill, and then he will be able to cast haste on himself and Kimahri and Wakka. And then we're going to use that to be able to very quickly kill the Sinspawns, which are infinitely spawning, so you can kill a bunch of these infinitely spawning enemies and get as much AP as you want to get as many sphere levels as you feel necessary. Now it's not necessary in terms of actual completing the game, because the game's not difficult early on anyway, but if, like myself, you like to be really overpowered at really early parts of the story, it's a fun little thing you can do if you don't really mind a bit of extra grinding. Now I always love a little bit of early grinding in Final Fantasy game anyway, and I really like being overpowered early on, which is what this sort of walkthrough is focusing on. So there's a few things we need first to be able to set this up. This is the save sphere before you get onto the SS Licky, just at the end of the little Besaid part of the game. I've done about an hour's grinding roughly, just to get the 10 total sphere levels that Tidus needs to be able to reach the strength node, which lets him activate haste. You can see that you also get an MP node to get a 20 extra MP on the way there as well. So make sure you activate both of those nodes and everything else in between. And you need to save an ability sphere to make sure that you have haste, and you can do that with Wakka, with Tidus, and then obviously get Wakka's little bits there, get a little bit of extra strength with him if possible. For the overdrive, so you'll have slice and dice. I've used spiral cut 10 times, but that's not 100% necessary because you'll get it in the course of the fight. And I do have the Slayer Overdrive mode, which gives 20% overdrive bar for every kill that Tidus gets. Now that's useful because it lets you use the overdrives a lot more. And you get that if you watch part 1 of my overpowered walkthrough, the well-known thing where these infinitely spawning enemies at the start, you can kill a bunch of those with Tidus until he gets the Slayer Overdrive mode. And that's really useful for this, and also goes a long way to learning Blitz Ace really early in the game if you're interested in doing that as well. So at this point, Tidus has got the Slayer Overdrive mode and Slice and Dice, and he's also learnt Haste, and he has enough MP there, 32 MP, to cast Haste 4 times, which is more than enough because you only need to cast it on yourself, Kimahri and Wakka. So first things first, you cast Haste on Tidus. Now, because we want all of the ability points with all of the characters, make sure that you have a turn with Lulu and Yuna in this battle as well. Now, it's very easy to forget to use those two because you just may not really need them in this, and you definitely don't need them for all this battling bit when you're killing the Sinspawns, so it's very easy to forget. So make sure that you definitely get Lulu and Yuna a turn before you start setting up to do this, just so that you make sure that they get the AP as well, because if you, however long you're grinding, you will get all the AP for that, and you definitely don't want to miss out there. Now, first things first, we cast Haste on Tidus as we've just done there. Lulu and Yuna have had their turns, and what we're going to do is we're going to use Cheer, and we're going to cast Haste on everybody. That's Wakka and Kimahri and Tidus, so that they have enough speed to be able to very quickly attack all of these Sinspawns, and then with Cheer they'll be able to kill them all in one hit, and then you can just infinitely farm these enemies for as long as you can be bothered, as long as you want to do it. Now you can of course do this without haste, and if you're only going to be doing a small amount of grinding, then you don't really have to do the grinding in Besaid to get haste for Tidus for doing this, because if you're only going to do say 15 and 20 minutes grinding on the Licky, there's no point in doing an hour's grinding in Besaid to get haste if you're not going to make use of it there. But I did about an hour and 10 here, and that gets you between 8 and 11 sphere levels. So it's well worth me doing the hour first in Besaid to get haste and maximise that. So what you do is you use Cheer with Tidus as many times as you want. 4 or 5 times should be absolutely fine, and then you just need to get it to the point where Wakka and Kimahri and Tidus can all one hit kill the enemies. So I use the Cheer of the maximum 5 times. The actual defense boost doesn't really matter because they won't be getting hits on you after it's all set up like this. And you can see now that we're to the point where Wakka and Kimahri can easily kill the Sinspawn. Even with 5 uses of Cheer, we couldn't get to the point where it was doing an overkill on these enemies. So you just don't really have to be particularly concerned about that. It's not really possible to get overkills on them unless you do tons of grinding in Besaid. But when you've got to this point where you can kill them all like that, every time you kill all three of the Sinspawn enemies, another 3 come down, and you can just repeat this infinitely. So you just make sure that you cast haste on all 3 of the party, and you'll have this little bit here where Wakka says about attacking the fin, and that if you're finishing the boss normally, then you would just concentrate on damaging the fin and using something like maybe Energy Ray or Energy Blast with Balfour to quickly take a chunk of damage off and overkill the fin. But that's not what we want to do. We want to just constantly grind these things, and you can kill all 3 of them every time before they even get an attack in, and you can just repeat until you are fed up and feel like you've got enough experience, AP, to be able to get the sphere levels. Now, just a quick word about Tidus' overdrives. If you have the Slayer Overdrive mode, you can use Slice and Dice, and Slice and Dice, you want to save it for when there are 3 enemies. So you see here I finished using Cheer for the last time, and it's actually Kimahri's go, but because I have the overdrive with Tidus, I just want to kill all 3 of these here, and then when a fresh 3 enemies come in, you see there we killed them all before they even got a turn. When a fresh 3 enemies come in, then defend with Tidus, with Wakka and Kimahri until it's Tidus' turn, and he can use Slice and Dice, because Slice and Dice can actually overkill them depending on how the hits go. So you can see here that when I use Slice and Dice and hit it so that it does all 6 hits, it'll hit the whole party of enemies, and even though it'll kill some of them just normally like that, there's no overkill there, some of them it will actually nail an overkill on, and it can critical hit as well. So we've got 2 overkills there, and that means that for those particular 2 Sinspawn, we got the double AP for that. So that's why you want to be saving Slice and Dice for when there's all 3 of them, and if you kill all 3 with Slice and Dice, it'll already recharge the bar by 60%. You can see here that eventually you'll learn Energy Rain, and that does it even better, and it's even quicker, so it'll always guarantee an overkill on all 3. And again, so you just save Energy Rain for when you've got those together. Now you can set yourself a target. I did about 1 hour and 10 minutes, which is a ton of sphere levels using this method, and that was fine for me. And I also wanted to do it until I got the Warrior and Slayer Overdrive modes with Kimahri. I believe it's 170 kills for him, and during that time, because Wakka has a lower requirement for Slayer, he got Slayer as well. So when you've decided that you've got enough kills, you can fight the Sinspawn boss, just use Balfour's Overdrive on the actual fin, end that fight, and then Tidus and Wakka have this, and try and make sure that you overkill this with Spiral Cut. So I hope you found that useful. It's a very good technique for getting a lot of AP and sphere levels very early in the game. And after you kill this boss, you'll see all of the AP that we got. It was over 1,000 for that hour and 10 minutes grinding, and if you have more patience or you're more obsessive with it, you can do even more and get a ton of sphere levels. And you see here that Tidus ends up getting about 8, which is the lowest because he already had more sphere levels, and Kimahri, because that's the first fight that he's involved in, he gets 11 sphere levels, and so you get a big jump, and that's why it's very useful. So again, hope you found that useful. Please like and subscribe for more videos.